You said that we must go. You're meant to be the seventh son.
Okay. Hello, I'm Chris.
And I'm Tom.
And you're watching That Review Show.
Yes, today we're going to be talking about two films that we've seen at the movies.
And those films are Seventh Son
and the Divergent series Insurgent.
Signs of evil are everywhere. And now we have this beast. I thought you might protect us.
Did you miss me?
So Chris, what does Seventh Son have for a plot?
So Seventh Son follows the seventh son of a seventh son who is recruited by a legendary witch hunter to go and kill a witch queen before the blood moon is full.
Because when the blood moon's full, she will have full power.
Yes, and it happens every 100 years, and after the last blood moon, the world was plunged into war.
Is the plot that straightforward, Chris?
Well, the plot's that straightforward, but the journey to get you to that conclusion meanders somewhat.
Meanders, I would say it absolutely diverts, walks off a cliff several times, and fails to get there before we're bored.
Yeah, so I had several issues with this film. The opening fight scene irritated me because it was there because you need to have an opening fight scene in an adventure film.
Yeah. Yeah, it establishes Jeff Bridges is badass when actually the scene afterwards established that as well. Yeah,
and they could have just combined the two and had him being badass, but instead you get the typical cliche of he doesn't want to go and help exorcise the demon when that's his job, so a soldier gets annoyed at him and tries to make him go, and they end up fighting, so he kicks his ass.
Yeah, why doesn't he want to go? Because that's exactly what he does want to go and do.
Well, then he after beating the soldier up, immediately goes to do it, and so you just think, why was that in the film?
Well, I'll tell you what, I didn't think that, because I walked into this film with zero expectations or knowledge of what I was going to see, because you went, let's go see a film called Seventh Son, it's got Jeff Bridges, and it's got fantasy. I just went, okay, let's see what happens, and I was like, oh, I kind of like this. His voice sounded a lot like Deckard Cain in a game called Diablo. It's sort of an irrelevant point, but that endeared me to the character. We have him being badass. I was like, okay, this is fine. And then following that, you know, that scene with the possession, the exorcism, and eventually him burning to death his apprentice and the witch, I loved. I absolutely loved it. I was like, this is a great movie.
Well, I liked that scene for several reasons. The apprentice who he is forced to sacrifice, essentially, is played by Kit Harington, who's Jon Snow in Game of Thrones. And I like Game of Thrones, so I saw Kit Harington and was excited by the fact he was in the film. I then heard his myriad of accents that he was using, and was slightly less excited. But then when they killed him 10 minutes in, I thought, oh, is this going to be like Game of Thrones? Are we going to have a series of main characters, none of whom are safe?
Yeah, that would have been cool, actually, if it had been a film actually about Jeff Bridges' list of red shirts.
Yeah. Yeah, but it wasn't that.
I mean, really, ostensibly, it should have been a really tightly plotted film where every scene moved us forward towards them getting to the witch. And in fact, the film starts that way. You've got this is the setup: him burying her in a hole because she's killed his wife. Then her rising again and him having to do the exorcism to get her out, capturing her, failing, and her killing his apprentice. Him going to get the next apprentice. Him training the next apprentice. Then they fuck off and do something else.
Yeah.
Like, it should have been them just constantly going on that journey to go get her and being waylaid. Instead, what happens is they have the agency of diversion. Yeah,
and that was irritating as well, because Jeff Bridges says towards the start, we've only got 7 days until the blood moon is full, so I have to train you up and we have to get to her and kill her within 7 days. And then they do one of their little side quests. They actually say, oh, it's a 2-day ride, and you think, well, don't do it then. Yeah. Like, this kid has been a pig farmer up until this point. don't spend 2 days doing something that doesn't need to be done.
Yeah. And the plot's all like that. I mean, there's a bit with a boggart attack, and okay, that's not their fault. That's fine. But at the same time,
It's the filmmaker's fault.
It's the filmmaker's fault, and it did make me go, oh, come on, can we just keep driving forward, please? That's what you started doing for the first 20 minutes, which was great. It stops driving forward, it starts driving sideways, and we end up with just all sorts of scenes, which I suppose are to establish that the character is growing, but you can do that in the straight line.
What exactly do we do?
Since the beginning of time, we have protected mankind.
Teach me.
Let's be perfectly honest though, he doesn't actually progress in the film. What happens is he stays the same all the way and is stupid, particularly in the romance plot, which we'll get into, and then at the end picks up a stick and happens to be wearing the necklace and goes, I can now kill everyone.
Yeah, he obtains, well actually he's given at the start of the film the MacGuffin device,
yes.
Which it only becomes the MacGuffin device about an hour and 10 minutes into the film.
Yeah, something like, oh, that's important, by the way. Do you remember that thing? Oh, yeah, that thing. Right.
Yeah, she puts it, it's the typical mother gives him the necklace and says, wear it always, it will protect you. And then it turns out that it's some witch amulet that enhances their powers. So Queen Witch then suddenly goes, oh, I want that amulet as well.
Yeah, that is a structural problem of the film, that actually you're given the MacGuffin early, it's not made significant then, and it isn't significant ever at any point until it's suddenly like, now it's significant and it's really important and that's what everyone wants. It's like, whoa, 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 this is a MacGuffin plot. Oh, right.
In terms of the characters, Jeff Bridges was fine. I like Jeff Bridges.
I really like Jeff Bridges as an actor.
He was doing his True Grit Jeff Bridges though, which meant that I missed about 80% of his dialogue.
Yep, though I liked that he was going for a slightly Bane version of that.
But the main character, when he's introduced, we talked about this after the film, and I didn't draw as many parallels as you did. But about 10 minutes into meeting our main character, who's going to become the apprentice and blah, I was thinking about Star Wars.
Yes.
And I was thinking, 10 minutes into meeting Luke Skywalker, you care about Luke Skywalker. You've got about 4 scenes with him. He buys the droids, he cleans the droids, he gets upset at Uncle Owen, because he wants to go to Tashi Station and pick up some power converters.
Yeah.
And then you've got the scene where he's looking out over the desert. You've got the 2 sons of Tatooine, and you've got the
The story is told through the music. His emotions, it's all there.
He wants to leave. He wants to go on an adventure. In this film, you meet Tom Ward, who says...
I didn't know his name was Tom.
I think his first line of dialogue to his sister is, Kate, I can't be a pig farmer forever. I gotta get out of here one day.
Yeah, it's like, just tell us. Don't show us. Don't hold our hand through it.
Yeah.
And 10 minutes into the character, you don't give a single fuck about him.
No, but
in fact, an hour in, you don't give a single fuck.
No, I didn't care about him for the entirety of the
I
film.
thought he was stupid and annoying.
But what you pointed out to me, and I hadn't even thought of this, was that it's so much like Star Wars, because you've then got Obi-Wan Kenobi shows up in his hood and his beard to take him away and train him to be a Jedi. And just talking about that fight scene as well, I've now just thought, Star Wars opens with a fight scene.
Yes.
But it has a point because it's the rebels fleeing from the Empire. And then you meet your main character and the wizard shows up.
Well, and think about what the wizard's mission is, to defeat his nemesis who was once his closest companion.
That's a good point as well.
It's
yeah.
Star Wars.
Yeah, so
just terribly done.
Obi-Wan and Darth Vader have basically the same relationship as Master Gregory and Mary Magdalene.
The thing is, A New Hope goes in a straight line. This does not. Can we talk about the romantic interest for Tom? Because she's a very interesting character in the way she is established, develops, and delivers lines.
Yeah, Tom Ward in a medieval fantasy land.
Okay, so let's talk about the character of name.
Elizabeth?
Elizabeth. Let's call her Elizabeth. That's probably not the character's name.
It's a good vampire
Here's
name.
a picture of the IMDb page. That's what her name really is, but we'll call her Elizabeth.
She's not a vampire, she was a witch.
Did I say vampire?
No, I said vampire.
Who said vampire?
I said vampire.
Do you know, actually, we got to a point in the film where people are being killed in this and they're all dissolving, and I was like, at least they're not fucking vampires. To establish the character of Elizabeth, she is Malkin's sister's daughter. Now, she doesn't like what Malkin's doing because Malkin has come back and is oppressing them, and so wants to get out, and that's pretty much her whole thing. Except she's very manipulative of the main character despite this.
Well, that's because the way that she tries to get out from under Malkin's thumb is by doing everything Malkin tells her to do.
Yes.
So Malkin tells her to go and spy on Tom.
I mean, to begin with, we don't know why she's doing it, and then she starts saying, I don't like doing it, and then Malkin scares her, so she does it. So there's some motivation.
Yeah. Sort of. But she could always just not go back to Malkin.
Yes. Well, and that's what she's trying to do with Tom.
Yeah, she wants to run away with him. She says, Tom, will you run away with me? And he says, yeah,
I mean,
I'll run away with you.
A lot of the reason why I found his character annoying and stupid is because of his interaction with her. She'd do things like, close your eyes, he'd close his eyes, she'd disappear on him. And I'm like, well, I saw that coming, why didn't you?
Yeah.
You stupid kid. And then later on she'd do the same. Right, so her character's pretty annoying, has terrible dialogue. It's basically Padme and Anakin romance dialogue that they have.
Her character's pointless. She only does two things.
Okay, forget the dialogue, it's crap. Yeah.
Well, she only does two things that actually matter. The first thing is she nicks the necklace off Tom.
Yes.
The
Subterfuge.
second thing is that about 4 minutes after giving the necklace to Julianne Moore, she nicks the necklace back off Julianne Moore and gives it back to Tom.
Yeah, motivation fail.
We're not all evil, you know.
I appreciated the violence in this film, mostly because it snapped me out of the doldrums. You know, I was just gone, and the violence was really quite hard hitting. It wasn't particularly graphic or gory, but there were scenes like where one of the witches is a dragon in dragon form, and it grabs a soldier off the battlements of the castle and just bang, slams him into the floor.
There's another one I remember where there's a soldier standing against a wall, like holding a sword or something, to one of the witches who's become a dragon, and the dragon just like smashes straight through the character and a wall, and then we get like cut from behind the thing, just like wrecking this person. I was like, whoa!
And then you had
it was pretty good.
Master Gregory's sidekick, who was Chewbacca. And he, towards the end of the film, during the big fight scene, he grabs one of the bad guys and breaks him across his knee. All moments that I liked.
Yeah, so when it got violent, the violence was quite good. Wouldn't say that the action or fighting was much good, but the actual violence was okay. And in fact, yeah, probably my favourite... No, the scene that re-engaged me with the movie slightly later on was the scene where all the witches are terrorising the town and it's just a murder fest. I really enjoyed that. I mean, that's the bit with the wall smash and the ground smash and it was just like, oh wow, cool, this is like witches being horrible. At least we now actually are establishing that they're bad rather than them just standing around going, we're bad.
Yeah, and Jeff Bridges going, witches are bad, never make fun with a witch.
If you see a witch, kill it.
Why could that necklace not have just suddenly burst into life when he picked up the staff, and then someone said, oh my goodness, it's that amulet that's legendary and it works with the staff, instead of Julianne Moore saying, I need that necklace because it's the thing that gives my power and blah, 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 blah. It just became so convoluted and didn't make any sense.
Yeah, so the film doesn't... It not only fails to draw to its conclusion with enough pace and vigour for us to care, it also becomes convoluted and difficult to follow when it comes to the stupid necklace.
Over one necklace.
Yeah.
Like that one necklace just kind of threw everything
But
into
even the
disarray.
necklace's purpose isn't clear, and that's not helpful. I mean, Jeff Bridges tells us in a moment of expository dialogue, the necklace is really... Sorry, I'll do it in my voice. The necklace is really useful because it enhances the witch's powers of illusion, which means that it's more powerful to others. People see them as the witches want them to see them. But that's not what it does at the end of the film. He picks it up and he turns him into basically Jedi Man. He gets a lightsaber on the end of his stick or whatever, and can insta-kill witches, bleeding all tension from the final scene. It's not... That's not consistent.
Well, not just him either, but his friends, because once he's got the necklace on and his stick is glowing, the witch daughter spy... Elizabeth, she suddenly picks up two swords and then is not only killing the minions of the witches, she actually has a fight scene where she does very well against the sword lord or the sword master.
The best sword master in the world, who is also a witch and has 4 arms with swords.
Yeah.
Count Dooku, basically.
And she's doing all the...
It has never before in the film been established that she has any fighting prowess whatsoever. Her skill is subterfuge and beauty. You know, and honesty a little bit, sort of, sometimes.
Yeah.
But never fighting. And then she's just like... Oh, God. And then we have trope moments. So the first trope I want to talk about is, of course, the character's about to die, and then the person who's about to kill them dies, and that happens. Like Swordmaster eventually gets the upper hand on her, despite the fact she's been kicking the shit out of him before that, and then dies because Hero kills her. Other tropes, Chris?
Well, there's the running away and reaching a cliff trope.
Yep.
Which happens in Star Wars.
Which one?
New Hope.
No way.
On the Death Star.
Oh, yeah.
I think we took a wrong turn.
Turn.
It happens twice in this film, though, about 30 minutes apart. So you get the first time they're running away and they get to a cliff edge and they...
I think they were 20 minutes apart.
And it's a river, so you're going to have to jump. What? Oh.
Boggart won't jump. The Boggart jumps.
And then, yeah, about 20 minutes later, they're running away from someone else and they get to the edge of a cliff and whoop. And I thought they were going to do a little play on it.
Because it was so obviously the same thing happening, yeah.
And I thought, because it was just bare rock this time, I thought Jeff Bridges was going to say, well, there's no jumping off this one. But instead, Jeff Bridges gets captured. Tom jumps off the cliff to his death but doesn't die.
And has a dream about his mum.
That'd be a good place to cut.
Yeah.
So, Tom,
Yeah.
Seventh Son, is it worth the ticket price?
Watch the first 10 minutes, then leave the cinema. Unless you're between the ages of 10 and 14 and male, in which case you probably quite enjoy it, because at that age I don't think people really care about it like making cohesive sense. To me, I'm like, it's jarring when it doesn't go the way I feel like it's telegraphing me it's going to go. They just want to see the cool action and vampire sister boobs. So, Chris, is Seventh Son worth the ticket price?
No.
Oh.
For the cost of a ticket to see Seventh Son, you could buy yourself a silver, vintage, 1920s flapper-style hair clip.
He said could, he should have said should.
That is disgusting. What does that kill?
Cowardice.
So we watched another movie recently. It was called the Divergent series Insurgent. What did you make of it? No. What does the Divergent series Insurgent have for a plot? No, why are you deflating? Tell us the plot.
Okay, so the Divergent series Insurgent is set in a future where society is split into factions based on kind of inherent skills, and the ability to multitask is punishable by death.
Can you just tell us what those skills are? I don't want to know the names of the factions.
Compassion, honesty, intelligence, selflessness, and bravery represent society.
So the idea is that the Divergents are people who are basically can do a bit of each thing. They don't fit into any one faction. And this is my main problem with this series of films, is that in order to be a hero or stand out in this future, you basically have to be completely average. You have to be sort of middle of the road. You can do a bit of everything.
You're really just a normal person.
Yeah, exactly. And maybe that's the kind of emo-teeny message that they're trying to send out, is that to be a real hero, you just need to be a normal person.
Yes. I think that maybe is sort of the...
Or maybe it's more that if you're a normal person, then you're also a hero. It feels a bit aggressive to say, in order to be a hero, you just need to be normal.
Conform!
Yeah, exactly.
Find them. Every last one of them.
Okay, so I fucking hated this film. I had not seen the first one. You had in the cinema. You told me only 2 things about it. First of all, the faction system and that premise, that the main character's Divergent, and also that the first film was about 4 hours long, or felt it, and was a training montage.
Yeah.
So I went in with very few expectations or understanding of what it was going to be like. From the outset, it felt like a really badly shot TV show, and it sort of continued along that vein, particularly in terms of the dialogue. I hated the boyfriend character. I hated most of the characters. I hated their motivations, and lots of it made no bloody sense.
Can I just point out one specific moment of dialogue that I've just remembered?
Go on.
So you've got boyfriend character and main character. Main character's full of angst over all the violence and whatever.
She represents the teenage girls the film's marketed towards.
Yeah, and there's a fantastic moment where he says to her, "You can't save everyone, Triss." And she says, "I can't save anyone." And he says, "No one can." Well, yeah.
This dialogue is meaningless.
There's loads of people who can save anyone, like firefighters, doctors, you know, it was just...
Oh no, but there's no faction for those.
But it's lines of dialogue like that where I can't remember all of them, but I remember several points in the film just going, what are you talking about? That makes no sense.
Yeah, in fact, there was a moment later in the film where the dialogue made no sense, and I think she's in a dream or a simulation, and she's talking to her mum and goes, "Mum, I don't want to be a Divergent anymore," which is basically like saying, "Mum, I don't want to be black anymore." It's completely genetically ingrained. It's who you are. It's your what are you talking about? Oh.
So anyway, the plot of this film...
I hate it.
Follows on from the first film. At the end of the first film, the Divergent... Well, Triss and her friends are framed for the... genocide of the Abnegation faction.
Is that what happened in the first film?
Basically, the Abnegation faction are wiped out by the Dauntless, who are under the control of Kate Winslet, and she blames it on Triss and her friends.
Kate Winslet is the head of the... No, Erudite.
Erudite, yeah. And so they go on the run. And I thought they were going on the run to outside the wall that surrounds the city. So when this film started, I thought they were outside the wall of the city, and I was thinking, oh, this is quite nice, actually.
Didn't know there was a wall.
But they were actually within the walls, and they were living in the Mormon village. But anyway, the plot of this film basically is that Triss wants to come back into the city and kill Kate Winslet.
Well, that isn't the plot to start with. That becomes the plot an hour and 20 minutes into the film.
No. The plot is always that Triss wants to kill Kate Winslet. At the start of the film, she wants to kill Kate Winslet.
Oh, okay.
Because there's the whole scene where the Amity leader says, killing Kate Winslet won't bring your mother back.
Oh, okay. So that's always a plan, but she doesn't seem to do anything about it until that time.
Yeah, but that's also the point at which Kate Winslet then has discovered a MacGuffin device and realises that she needs Triss to open the MacGuffin device, because only a Divergent who is fully Divergent is strong enough to pass all the tests and open the thing.
Yeah, the MacGuffin device is a gold box with the pictures of all the factions on it, but I thought it looked like the Hunger Games box set, which I think this film really wishes it did have.
Yeah, I think this film really wants to be the Hunger Games and Twilight.
Dystopian future is big with teenage girls these days for some reason.
Yes. So the first Divergent film was horribly boring.
So you said.
And there was a point during the Divergent series Insurgent where one of the characters actually just got to the point where he said, I'm going to leave this film now. Her brother, who's been with them and rebelled and joined in and is a fugitive with them, they're walking back into the city, and he just says, I don't want to be in this film anymore because I don't really fit in with you guys, so I'm just going to leave now.
Right.
They could have done something a lot more, I say a lot more clever as though I'm a genius. It's not a lot more clever, but they'd met up with this kind of faction and they stayed there for the night, and then they were heading back into the city, and at that point he says, I don't want to do this, and leaves. He could have just said, I'm going to stay here with these guys. Because they were like the kind of the sewer rats. He could have said, I'm gonna stay with these guys and help them out, because he was erudite.
Something more organic with the plot rather than just suddenly like, bye!
Yeah, while they're walking, just, no, I don't fancy this, I'm off.
Motivation breaking rubbish.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of that in this. What about rooms suddenly flooding with people? That happens 3 times in this film.
At least, yeah. So there were several scenes where they just kind of felt the need to have... I don't know if it's because they needed to witness Triss.
I think symbolically, right, so 3 times in this film, you have moments where something happens and then suddenly a whole load of people arrive to either swamp and help the character or witness what's happening with the main character or whatever, and I think that's basically sort of a metaphor, not a metaphor, but it just shows her position as a separate and other, a Divergent, you know, and there's all these others who are just the crowd, the general people who can watch and understand.
People diverge on her location?
Converge. So 3 times in this film, people swamp rooms, and I think that's supposed to be a sort of in the language of film, a representation of the fact that she, Trist, the Divergent master race person, stands above and apart from everyone else, and there's big witnessing of that.
I think also, maybe I'm giving this film too much credit, but I think her character is very afraid of failure.
Yeah.
And failing the people around her.
Yes.
And maybe by having lots of people around her who depend on her,
yes,
that's kind of symbolising the fact that all these people rely on her, maybe?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, again, could be giving it too much credit, or it could be brilliant but accidental. I would not put that past.
Or it could be brilliant but really clumsily done.
Yeah.
Because there are scenes where she's talking to one person and literally 40 people will just walk into frame behind that one person.
In that scene that you're talking about, it's a fight on the train. They've been fighting the boss of this big group, and they beat him into submission, and he stands up and goes, "Grr!" at them, basically. And then 40 people arrive, and it's like, where were you in the fight scene just then? You could have definitely helped your boss. Another one is some people are storming the building and attacking all of them, and they're using bullets that only take out people who aren't Divergent. And as she runs down the stairwell, like, again, 40 people just explode out of a locker room of cheerleaders, all with blonde hair, so that she can blend into the crowd when they all fall over. And it's like, whoa, where did they come from?
Yeah, it's not even like she's running through the hallway of the building that they're sleeping in. She comes in off the fire escape from the roof. You know, she walks in through that, and as she literally comes in through that door, is running down the stairs, and then there are just 60 blonde girls in pyjamas running down the...
I turned to you in the cinema at that point and went, where did the locker room full of cheerleaders come from? Like, yeah, and that's just like, wow, totally immersion breaking, doesn't make any sense, but it's for a function in the film. Yeah. And there was a lot of that. I said, you know, in terms of immersion breaking in this film, and characters only just being there because they have a function, I said Naomi Watts rescues them later in the film because that was the whole reason her character was set up.
Yeah, she appears in the film at one point to say, I'm in this film, and then disappears from the film until the point when they're just about to get, and then she comes in with her people and saves them, and you're like, oh, that's why she's in the film.
I mean, I thought actually she was in there to help develop the character of Tobias, which is the boyfriend character of Trist, but she's not really. She just annoys him once by calling him Tobias. Later on she calls him Tobias as well, and he doesn't seem to react whatsoever to that. And, you know, character consistency is not important. This film has some moments of very poor attention to detail. One which is quite minor, involving physics and a train, and another which is quite major in terms of your understanding of the character decoding the MacGuffin through the trials she goes through, which I'd quite like to discuss as a fish out of water.
Would you want me to discuss the train then?
Go on.
Okay, so there's a point where they're running away from a bad guy. Bad guy's firing his pistol, and they're running by a train, and the bullets are hitting the train by their heads, and they're, you know, ducking. And it just seems as though the filmmakers just weren't, you know, one hand wasn't talking to the other. Yeah. Because
one hand?
They're actually one ear, one face.
That's
an expression, isn't it? One hand's not talking to the other.
I'm not sure.
The train's here, and they're here, and the guy is firing his gun from over here.
Yeah.
So he's firing here, and the bullets are going doof, 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 on the side, and it's not only a train, but it's actually a sort of dual carriage train. So the whole train is sort of two trains, one by the other, running on two tracks. And you just think, is that a pistol that can go through trains and they've just not established it and never talk about it again? Or was that just that one person in the effects team thought, oh, this guy's firing, wouldn't it be cool if we had some bullet ricochets in there? Okay, if you want to avoid spoilers, skip to this time code.
What's it?
Just there. It's numbers. It's just a time code on the... Do you see it?
Witchcraft.
Yeah.
The whole test segment, which is the culmination of what the film's about, which is the key thing, is messy as shit. It made almost no sense to me, like, what had happened. And I was like, oh, it's over, she's passed them all, what? What? All it would have needed is the box. Occasionally, just shots of it going, okay, that was passed, okay, that was passed. And then I would have gone, oh, that's what that meant. Oh, now I understand more about the world and factions. The world is being shown to me by the film. Instead, it's just that they just go, blah, 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 dialogue. Oh, God. The bad guy character, established early, really horrible to Trist very early on. Like, really quite mean. And I was telling you,
Tris, by the way.
Tris. I thought it was Trist, as in like a naughty liaison.
No, it's Tris as in Beatrice. Her name is Beatrice.
Oh.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he's really horrible to her. And I was turning to you in the cinema and going, why is he being so horrible? And you go, oh, you have to see the first film. I'm like, I wish they'd established something about characters.
Yeah.
Forget that. The fact is, yes, he starts off really horrible, and he's a dick, and he's a dick, he's a dick. He sells them out when they get in trouble. He then is later the baddie in the prison. She decides not to kill him, and suddenly he's on their side, risking his life repeatedly.
Well,
now,
I think
you say that you excuse that character motivation. I think it's
I think
jarring.
you missed the point that he turncoats, he hands them in, blah 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 blah. But it's the point where he realises that Kate Winslet is going to treat him as completely expendable, and I think that's when he realises. He then goes, "Oh, I've made a mistake."
That's very erudite of him.
Erudite, I think you mean. So at the end of the film, this character then saves them, basically, and what he does is he very clever. She's running this simulation because she has to beat the 5 simulations for all the 5 factions to prove she's Divergent so she can open the Hunger Games box set.
The MacGuffin, yeah.
As she's being taken into the chamber, he stabs her in the back.
Not
Literally. No, literally.
What, did he actually stab her?
Yeah, how did everyone I watched this film with not notice the bit where he stabbed her in the spine? Anyway, on the way in, he stabs her in the back, and she then dies during the test. And
What the fuck?
he's given... Oh, why'd you never pay... See, look, don't listen to anything he moans about in films. He never pays any fucking attention.
He didn't do that.
He did.
I used a syringe, yeah?
He, in the back like that.
I don't remember her, like, bleeding.
When she's, like, struggling. Well, it was a syringe,
You
but
made this up? Yeah, okay, I remember him syringing her, yeah.
Well, it's not like a syringe, though. He... In the back like that. He stabs her with a paralytic.
Yeah?
Paralytic?
Analgesic.
So that she dies, or appears to die during the simulation.
Is that why that happened?
Yeah, and then she wakes up and they escape.
Nothing is clear.
Which is fine, but when she dies...
In the simulation.
He wields... Well, because she dies in real life. She dies in the simulation. It's like the Matrix. She dies in the simulation, so she dies in real life, but she's not actually dead because he's injected her with this thing.
Whoa.
He wheels her corpse down to the prison cell where the boyfriend is.
Yeah, to show her off and like be like,
He says,
killed your girlfriend.
Kate Winslet said to show you this. And you think, why? And then they let him out of the cell to have a look at her as well. And you think, well, why? And then he gets angry.
Boyfriend gets angry.
Boyfriend gets angry, attacks the guards. Trish then coughs and starts to wake up. And bad guy says, hey, Tobias, why don't you do that thing you do? And they beat everyone up.
Murders the guards with his fists, yeah.
Now, my issue with this is, why would Janine want Tobias to see the body?
Yes.
Sorry, Kate Winslet is called
Well,
Janine.
she doesn't. He's made that up. That's a ruse.
But that's not established, though.
No, not at all. But we're supposed to... again...
It just comes off as like a remarkable coincidence that it's, by the way, could you take her dead body to show her boyfriend and also let her boyfriend out of the cell to look at the dead
and if
body?
she didn't ask him to do that, how is it that he's getting away with taking a body there without being tracked?
Yeah, exactly.
In fact, there's lots of this stuff. They're in a high-security facility sneaking in, and there's no bloody cameras going, there's some guys with guns in the corridors that aren't meant to be there. Like, for ages, and they beat up guards. They actually beat people up in corridors. No security system goes off whatsoever. Yeah.
No, it's absolutely fine.
It's just a load of fucking around.
Yeah, but that's... So the end of the film, the part that really annoyed me about the end of the film was the fact that they get this the MacGuffin thing is a message from the founders of the society, and it's going to give them the answer, the final answer to the Divergent problem, which is so horribly Nazi Germany in such an awfully unsubtle way.
Divergent
the
problem,
final
yeah.
solution to the Divergent problem.
They don't say final solution.
I'm pretty sure they do.
Oh no, the novel writer would have been more aware than that, more erudite than that.
But yeah, so it's supposed to be this message from the founders on how to solve the Divergent problem, and what it turns out, the founder says, hello, we're from outside the wall where mankind is on the brink of extinction. We've created your city as an experiment and created factions in order to create peace, but some of you will not fit into these factions. You will be known as the Divergents. And if you're watching this, you must be Divergent, which means our experiment has succeeded because some of you have not conformed to the factions and are Divergent. And you think, but if you created the factions to create peace, why did you want people to not conform to the factions and be Divergent? Surely, before the factions, everyone was basically Divergent because you all had to do a bit of everything. So why create the factions in order for them just to be broken?
So they effectively say, here's our premises. The criteria for success is the failure of those premises.
Yeah. So the final insult in this film is the gunshot fade to black, or gunshot cut to credits, actually. But
Can't believe it.
The first film ended just as it was getting interesting. I thought they were heading to outside the wall, but it turns out they weren't. And just as they were getting on the train and heading out, it cut to credits, and I thought, oh. And this film, again, exactly the same thing, but this time mass exodus out of the city.
Yes.
They're all heading towards the wall, and you think this is going to be interesting, and then it goes back to one of the characters talking to another character, gun to the head, bang, and credits. In this film's defence, there are quite a few moments of really blunt violence, which are kind of, I mean, they're not bad enough to be shocking, but they are at least vaguely interesting.
At least Star Wars Revenge of the Sith had the dignity to kill children.
You had several people, though, being just executed point blank in the head, bang.
By good guys as well.
By good guys
in fact, people being thrown off trains and running under them by good guys. Like, really brutally and in sort of tone-shattering, like, horror. Like, oh my God, bloody hell.
Yeah.
Whereas the moment where there's 3 people about to commit suicide because they're being mind-controlled had no impact or tension, and they didn't succeed. If they'd all died, oh no, one of them died, but if all 3 of them had died, I'd have been like, yeah, cool. But it was just like, oh no, the character that we're supposed to care about in that group was saved.
Well, I like the fact that
she had a name, that's all I gave a damn about.
The character who died didn't have a name until after she died, when someone said...
oh, that was Janine.
Yeah, someone went, blonde girl died, and her friend went, Melanie. Her name was Melanie, and you're like, oh. So, Tom, is the Divergent series Insurgent worth the ticket price?
If you're a teenage girl, I talked to some teenagers about this, and they're massive fans of the book. I think the book, or at least they love the first film. They really want to see the second. They're jealous that I saw it. And I was like, no, don't go watch it, it's rubbish. And they were angry about it. Probably because they identify more with the main character. Again, just like Seventh Son, don't care whether or not the plot makes that much sense, as long as it's got certain key things in it, like hot boyfriend and very tastefully edited sex scene, like her overcoming difficulties, even if those difficulties make no sense, like characters having social relationships that are very negative, but where eventually they're resolved, like the bad guy character, and like, you know, the brother being irrelevant in your life. I think that's what teenage girls like. So actually, I guess it is, if you're the target market. For me, I hated just about everything about it. I felt there was a scene that almost had tension 40 minutes in, where I was like, oh, this is going to be good, and it just resolved with basically no consequences, boring. And then an hour and 10 minutes, hour and 20 minutes in, it was like, oh, the film's actually starting now, right, we're getting the main plot. And then that was incoherent, and I didn't quite understand how it had resolved when it did. So really, it's badly made film, badly written is really the problem. Don't go watch it unless you're a teenage girl.
You know, I got distracted for a good 10 minutes of this film. I missed about 10 minutes because I wasn't focusing. There's a point at which one of the trials, she has to fight someone who she really hates. And the person she really hates
is herself. I remember, yeah.
And there's a bit where...
Totally unrehearsed, by the way. Yeah.
She sees herself and she says, who are you?
Yeah, why would you say that?
Ridiculous question. But as soon as she said, who are you, this voice in my head, in response to that question, went, I'm you. I'm your shadow. And I thought, what's that from? And I spent the next 10 minutes of the film sat there just listening to that.
Oh, that's why you were distracted, because you were trying to remember. What film? What film?
Where's that from? If you know what that quote is from, pop it in the comment section.
Am I allowed to pop it in the comment section? Because
No.
I'm sure you've told me, but I can't bloody remember. I never can.
If you know what that is from, pop it in the comment section and give us the name of an ex-rental that you'd like us to review. And if you're the first one to get it right, we'll review your film.
To contextualise what he's doing right now, he does this to me. Says a film quote, I go, oh, what's that from? And he goes, just going to have to work it out in your own time.
Yeah, so
it's bad manners to Google.
All 4 of you who are watching this review, if you can be the first one to guess where that quote is from, we'll review your ex-rental suggestion.
If you've got this far through these reviews of these bloody awful films, then, you know, I think you deserve to be a winner in some sense, so you can enter a competition.
Yeah.
Can we stop talking about these fucking awful films now?
Yes. What does diverge mean?
The other way. To diverge would be if they're all at her location and go the other way. That's why she's divergent.
So
she peels off from the pack.
No, but she should be convergent because she has all the skills within her.
Yeah, she has convergence.
Divergent implies that she's ejected all the skills.
But, well, she's got all of them, but most divergents have they're diverging from their faction. I think that's the point.
Yeah,
here.
so you have 2 or 3 skills, whereas she has. Yeah, okay, fine. Okay, fine. Well done, film.